Welcome, Horizoners, to your trusted source of news and analysis, the New Horizon channel. On our YouTube channel, we continually update you with the most recent and trending issues. Today, we discuss an important turn of events in the ongoing conflict between Israel and Hamas. Israeli President Isaac Herzog announced on October 22 that Hamas fighters were found with documents detailing the production of chemical weapons in an unexpected attack on Israel on October 7. Speaking to Sky News, President Herzog attributed this to the efforts of their military intelligence agency, which is actively handling both IS, Islamic State, and Hamas. The situation is alarming as these discovered documents provide instructions for operating and manufacturing rudimentary chemical weapons. According to the Israeli Defense Forces, these documents were discovered on Hamas fighters within the Be'eri settlement in southern Israel. Previously, the Wall Street Journal had reported that Hezbollah members also had comprehensive maps of different cities, military bases, and information regarding the defense weaknesses of armored vehicles used by the Israeli military. The instructions, penned in Arabic, display a well-executed plan and substantial intelligence gathering. They shed light on the depth of Hamas's intelligence network and the level of planning that went into this attack right from the start. From the get-go, Hamas intended to target not just military bases, but also civilian centers and take hostages. Michael Mistin, an Israeli intelligence officer and head of the Palestinian Studies Forum at Tel Aviv University, expressed that the intended targets were accurately identified. This level of detailed and large-scale planning is unprecedented for Hamas. A 14-page document marked Top Secret in Arabic dated June 15, 2023, outlines a plan to infiltrate Mefim, a small settlement close to Gaza, and capture the residents as hostages. The plan suggests that two 5-member teams, along with a commander, would execute the operation at 5 a.m. The documents, which include a map and aerial images of the town, show a population of 1,000 civilians. According to the Voluntary Security Forces, the Israeli military was stationed near Mefim and could respond within 3 to 5 minutes. The attack team were instructed to breach the security fence, with others providing artillery backing. The plan outlines that once inside, the group would capture hostages for negotiation. Another document focused on the vulnerabilities of Israel's main battle tank, the Merkava. It directed fighters to exploit these weaknesses from a distance of roughly 50 meters, using RPG-7 rocket launchers or other direct fire weapons. At least one Israeli tank was targeted and disabled in the early hours of the October 22 attack. The Israeli military continued their heavy airstrike campaign on the Gaza Strip on October 22, bombarding hundreds of different targets, demolishing numerous buildings and causing over 200 casualties and hundreds of injuries. According to figures given by the Palestinian health authorities, the toll in Gaza had escalated to approximately 500,000 as of the night of October 22. This includes over 4,800 fatalities and 14,000 injuries. Furthermore, several individuals remain trapped under the destruction left by simultaneous attacks. Alongside these aerial attacks, the Israeli military are stepping up their groundwork and arrangements for a potential ground infiltration into Gaza, aiming to dismantle Hamas. On October 22, the Israeli Ministry of Defense issued a statement asserting that the aerial and ground conflict could persist for 1, 2, or 3 months, with their ultimate objective being the dissolution of Hamas and the easing of tensions along the Israel-Gaza boundary. Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu visited the area on October 22 to meet with Israeli special forces and cautioned that Hezbollah in Lebanon might be faced with a severe conflict like the 2006 summer war if tensions continue to escalate. Despite this, the Israeli government leader believes that Hezbollah has not yet chosen to instigate a fresh conflict in the area. The Prime Minister's visit to the border area with Lebanon occurred mere hours after a violent conflict on October 21, involving mortars and missiles between the Israeli military and Hezbollah. This conflict resulted in 5 Israeli soldiers being injured and the death of 6 Hezbollah fighters. This was the most intense conflict between the two sides since the recent escalation, which started on October 7 when Hamas initiated attacks on southern Israel, prompting Israeli airstrikes. Several analysts have expressed fears that the current tension at the Israel-Lebanon border may explode into a large-scale conflict, with unpredictable implications for the overall security of the Middle East. As the Israeli military prepares for a ground attack on Gaza, their concerns are also shifting towards the north. out of fear of possible retaliation from Hezbollah militants across the border in Lebanon. Any such retaliations could trigger a full-scale conflict, which could have far-reaching effects on the region. Hezbollah, formed in the early 1980s following the destruction of Lebanon's civil war, with support from Iran, has the objective of removing forces from Lebanon and countering Western influence in the Middle East. The relationship between Hezbollah and Hamas is complex, given their different ideological and sectarian backgrounds. Hamas is a branch of the Sunni Islamist movement, while Hezbollah's ideological roots originate from Iran's Shia revolutionary ideology. Despite their shared goal of resisting Israel and opposing any normalization of Arab or Muslim relations with the Jewish state, the two groups were in discord during the Syrian civil war. Nevertheless, officials from both groups, along with Iranian security officials, regularly meet for consultations. Hezbollah, with its extensive missile arsenal, is a significant threat to Israel. They have the ability to hit most locations in Israel, bypassing its defense systems to wreck critical infrastructure and civilian centers. Some believe that recent Israeli airstrikes in Syria may have been intended to disrupt Hezbollah's supply lines from Iran. While Hezbollah is dedicated to countering Israel, some analysts believe that they have too much to lose to risk a full-scale conflict. Their political and economic stakes are vast and extend far beyond direct military action. While the world watches the escalating conflict between Israel, Hamas, and Hezbollah, an unseen crisis is unfolding in the background. The humanitarian cost of this conflict is reaching alarming levels. As we speak, the citizens of Gaza are trapped in an escalating cycle of violence, with their homes and livelihoods caught in the crossfire of a conflict they did not choose. Their plight is worsened by a crippling blockade that has left them without access to basic necessities like food, water, and medical supplies. As the airstrikes intensify, the number of civilian casualties continues to rise, with hospitals struggling to cope with the influx of wounded. The international community has begun to respond, with aid convoys making their way into Gaza. However, their efforts are hampered by the ongoing conflict and the restrictive blockade that severely limits the amount of aid that can be delivered. The United Nations and other humanitarian organizations have called for an immediate ceasefire to allow for the delivery of much-needed aid. But with tensions showing no signs of easing, the people of Gaza are left in a state of uncertainty, caught between the hope of aid and the fear of further violence. Despite the grim situation, there are still glimmers of hope. Stories of resilience and humanity continue to emerge from the rubble. Ordinary citizens risking their lives to help their neighbors, volunteers working tirelessly to provide aid, and small acts of kindness that shine a light in the midst of darkness. These stories serve as a reminder that even in the face of overwhelming adversity, the human spirit prevails. As the world watches and waits, the people of Gaza continue to endure, their resilience a testament to their will to survive. We will continue to bring you updates on this unfolding crisis. Thank you for watching. Please like and subscribe to stay informed. While many perceive that Hezbollah, HB, is only in pursuit of a minor, short-lived conflict while steering clear of a large-scale war, everyone concurs that there's a potential for a disastrous miscalculation in such a volatile. Presently, Israel is charting out plans to escalate its airstrikes as part of the upcoming phase of the conflict. In contrast, a peace conference in Egypt aimed at Gaza has been met with profound disillusion. The initial aid convoys have made their way into Gaza, yet global leaders caution that further action is required to avert a humanitarian catastrophe following 2 weeks of conflict in this region populated by 2 million inhabitants. As it stands now, the situation shows no signs of easing, and there's an impending danger of it expanding. Efforts on the international level to alleviate the tension have yet to produce tangible outcomes. Egypt allowed 13 trucks laden with medical supplies, 5 vehicles carrying food, and 2 water tankers to pass through the Rafah border crossing. However, according to the United Nations and humanitarian bodies, this is merely a tiny fraction of what's required the 2.2 million residents cramped within the Gaza Strip. This underscores the pressing need for a lasting humanitarian passage to guarantee vital supplies. Despite a fortnight of strife between Israel and Hamas, the situation continues to escalate with casualties increasing on both ends. Israel has bolstered its military personnel and weaponry in zones bordering Gaza. After a recent cabinet discussion, Israeli military representative Daniel Hagar declared the country's intention to ramp up airstrikes as a preemptive move for the impending conflict stage. He also repeated the instruction for Gaza occupants to evacuate southwards for their protection. Israel vows to persist in its assault on Gaza and escalate attacks on humanitarian aid destinations. A meeting in Egypt aimed at curbing the Gaza crisis and safeguarding civilians was attended by global leaders. Still, the conference was devoid of crucial attendees such as Israel, the United States, or Iran, and failed to reach a consensus on halting the violence between Israel and Hamas. King Abdullah II of Jordan rebuked the global indifference towards the violent conflict that has claimed thousands of lives in Gaza and rendered over 1 million homeless. He pressed for a more balanced approach to the Israeli-Palestinian discord. Antonio Guterres, Secretary General of the United Nations, stressed, "We must acknowledge the Palestinian people's grievances are legitimate and persistent. We can't ignore the broader context in which these distressing events are unfolding. An occupation that's been going on for 56 years. There's no going back, but there can never be an excuse for Hamas's attacks on Israeli civilians, nor can these assaults ever sanction the collective punishment of the Palestinian." With each passing day, the death toll in Gaza continues to climb. The region, already grappling with a 17-year blockade and siege, is becoming even more alienated after the recent conflict between Israel and Hamas. Approximately 1.4 million people, or 60% of Gaza's populace, have been displaced within a span of 2 weeks.